Welcome to Reuters Events Pharma Insights, the podcast all about pharma. I'm Jonathan Elliott, your host for this episode. At Reuters Events Pharma USA in Philadelphia, one of the conversations that really energized me was with Tom Lampron, who is the Global Commercial Pancreas Lead at Revolution Medicines. Tom has been part of more than 30 pharmaceutical launches across his career. That's a remarkable body of experience. And what struck me about him immediately is that he thinks about launches not as commercial events, but as behaviour change problems at a massive scale. We got into what it really takes to move the needle when a new medicine enters the market, changing the habits of thousands of clinicians, nurses, pharmacists, payers, and increasingly the AI bots that manage everything from electronic medical records to insurance appeals. We talked about the rigorous planning that needs to happen before approval, why the first 6 months after launch are so critical and so unforgiving, and what Tom describes as the key quality that separates the best launches from the rest. That's courage. We also explored precision oncology and the specific challenge of embedding biomarker testing into clinical workflows before treatment decisions are made, an area where getting the details right can make the difference between a patient being treated optimally or not at all. So, Tom, thank you very much for joining us today. It's wonderful to have you on the podcast. Let's just talk a little bit about some of the topics that relate to launches in particular. You have significant launch experience with over 30 launches, launching new medicine or indication. Could you share about how you recommend we think about this massive behavior change for customers?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. I think launches involve a lot of humans, and humans, we're creatures of habit. Our brains are wired. So if something works, repeat it over and over. And everything from the prescribing to the adverse event management to payer policies, all this becomes very hardwired. And doctors get really comfortable. Economically, it works for them. It works for their bosses. Payers' budgets are predictable and planned. So this becomes quite a challenge. And now with a new launch, you expect to change all of that? Well, first you got to change all the guidelines and pathways and systems that are going to guide that prescriber through that change. Doctors are going to need to change how they prescribe. Nurses are going to need to change how they teach and monitor their patients. Pharmacies need to change what they order and stock. Even the IT team is going to have to ask their AI bots to update the EMR. And then insurance companies are going to have their AI bots updated so that they can add more policies and more restrictions that may even slow you down. And then providers are going to update their AI bots to conduct appeals. So if you add all that up, we're talking thousands and thousands of healthcare providers, insurance plans, thousands of AI bots. It's hundreds of thousands of behavior changes. So what could possibly go wrong, right? Well, if you think about it, behavior change is not really easy. Even try it on yourself. Here's a real simple change thing you can try, but it has almost no friction except for your own brain. Take 1 week and try to remember to brush your teeth every single day, every single time with the opposite hand. If you can do that, you will see how difficult it is to make change. See how it feels. See what percentage of the time you can actually remember to use the opposite hand. And then also think about, what are some of the techniques you did to remind yourself to use the opposite hand. And I can trust me, it's always difficult. So no behavior change is easy. And what this adversity breeds is opportunity. Because if you understand driving this behavior change better than others, and if you can accelerate that gives you a huge strategic advantage. And it even makes it more difficult for whatever brands come after yours. Because we all know, we've all seen the data, whoever's first to market has a significant advantage. And that's because the behavior change is so difficult.
What can be done to before approval and then after approval? What are some of the considerations that we need to think about before we get to approval stage?
Well, I think before approval, it's rigorous planning. It's collaboration across medical, field teams, insights, and beyond. It's leveraging speed with artificial intelligence. It's a lot of scenario planning. I think the scenario planning piece is really important around the potential prescribing label, around competition, around customer segments. We can't exactly predict what's going to happen. So we have to plan on a range. Additionally, I think it's important to think through that most difficult behavior change. Where do you expect the most friction? Wherever there's the most friction, you got to align multiple marketing levers to overcome that, whether it's data, messaging, where you're going to socially leverage the key opinion leaders. Whatever it is, double down wherever there's a lot of friction around that behavior change. And I think everyone's heard that one hospital, if you know one hospital, then you know one hospital. Well, healthcare is local and there's so much variability and there's so much behavior change and the level of friction is going to vary by every single customer, every single payer, every single nurse and so forth. Every AI bot is going to vary. So anything you can do to personalize your effort so you can dial up or down effort locally, this is going to make you much, much more efficient. And it's going to allow you to put more resources where the most friction is. And that will make and accelerate these behavior changes you're trying to drive. So this is where we have to leverage AI. We have to leverage that next best action. And then we need to segment our customers. Not, in the old days, we'd have 3 or 4 customer segments. That was all our brains could handle. But now with AI, you can have thousands or millions of segments. So leverage the greatest technology to allow you to shift your efforts significantly. So rigorous planning, scenario planning, collaboration, and that personalization with that AI, those things can all be done gearing up for this amazing launch.
Let's shift to early momentum. You've worked with highly experienced oncology teams. So what does early momentum look like? And how do you know you're winning for patients?
Yes, absolutely. So over 20 years, we've all seen the data. It shows that there's a very strong correlation between the uptake during the first 6 months and how that correlates to your peak year sales. And we've seen this time and time again with many, many medicines. So that early momentum is so critical. If uptake is slow, it becomes extremely difficult to recover, and very few medicines are able to do that. So after approval, it becomes a full sprint. All functions simultaneously, marketing, medical, field teams, comms, they're all following their launch plans. And measurement is key. You need leading and lagging indicators. You need to benchmark what your expectations are versus prior launches so that you know if your field calls are on track. You should be able to know from benchmarks if payer policies are getting updated in a timely fashion. We should know based on benchmarks if guidelines are being updated quick enough. So all of these things can determine if you're building momentum and adding to it, or if things are behind and you need to figure out how to rapidly increase that momentum. I think, so what is one of the most critical things in that first 6 months? Courage. Yes, courage. You have to make adjustments. And when I was a management consultant, we did a lot of research around the launches that were the most successful and the least successful. And there was one thing that we consistently found in the most successful launches, and we did not find in the least successful. Now, no launch is perfect. There's always mistakes. There is no flawless execution. That's just a fantasy, just a unicorn. Now, the best products and the best launches made mistakes. Those companies had the courage to identify and fix it very quickly within the first 6 months. So that courage is really important because we all know before launch, we're going to have all of our launch readiness reviews and we're going to tell management we've done everything. We're ready to go. We're ready to launch this. It's going to be awesome. We're focused on flawless execution. So 2 months into your launch to step back and say, oh, we made a mistake. We got to course correct. The companies that are bold and courageous, those are the ones that win in the long run. And I get it. There's a ton of pressure with a launch. If you're a small biotech company, this is probably the number one priority for the entire company. If you're a big pharma company, you likely have some big LOEs coming and new products of the future. So either way, it's a lot of pressure. So just remember, it takes a lot of pressure to make a diamond. So have courage, find the gaps, adjust, and make some diamonds.
I love it. Let's make diamonds. Precision oncology requires reflexive biomarker testing. What are the biggest commercial challenges in changing physician behavior to ensure testing happens before treatment decisions?
Yes, the precision medicine is fantastic. We're seeing more and more biomarkers, which is allowing us to help more patients in a very focused way, which is fantastic. We're seeing more panels like Foundation Medicine. So I think there's different scenarios with a biomarker. If you're in the scenario where there's already existing tests for that specific patient population, then the best thing to do is to try to leverage the momentum that's already been created by these other tests. Leverage the same flow if possible. So here's another brushing your teeth analogy. So we know with patient adherence, if you put your medicine next to your toothbrush, those patients are significantly more adherent because they're already brushing their teeth twice a day, and that's 2 chances they can take their medicine. So it's a similar thing with biomarkers. If there's already testing for HER2 and BRCA or BRCA in breast cancer, then join the same flow and leverage that momentum with your new biomarker. Now, the other scenario is when you have a patient type that doesn't have a biomarker, or a different process is required for your biomarker. Now, this is a lot more work, a lot more behavior change, and there's going to be a lot more friction. So the goal here is to reduce as much friction as possible for the prescriber. You want the prescriber to do as little as possible, hopefully nothing, and the patient's biomarker results will be put right in front of their face. If you can do that, you will be successful. And this is going to require reflex testing, like you mentioned. It's going to require a pathologist who is fully on board and he's willing to support this. It's going to require changes in the EMR. Sometimes testing results get buried in the EMR and it takes 20, 30 keystrokes for a doctor to find those. Well, try to get it right up in front so they can see it. Hopefully the patient's aware. If you can make the patient aware of their biomarker score, they will ask the doctor. So all of this is putting it right in front of the doctor and making it really easy. And if you run into challenges, you're going to have to partner with the diagnostic companies very quickly. You're going to have to partner with patient advocacy as well. And all of them can help bring this test and drive through those behavior changes.
That's fantastic, Tom. Thank you so much. Let's just tie it all up together now with some final thoughts. What would you like to say to pharmaceutical leaders and other stakeholders in a conference like this? What's the big takeaway?
Well, I think the key is remember this is a massive behavior change, hundreds of thousands for humans and bots to change. That's not easy. So the rigorous planning, the collaboration, scenario planning, leveraging AI to personalize, all of these things are going to drive that early momentum. Really measure it carefully. And remember, no team is perfect. So please have the courage to adapt it and overcome that pressure and make some diamonds.
Fantastic. Tom Lampron, that was absolutely diamond. I really enjoyed our chat and I hope you enjoy the conference.
Thank you so much.
Tom Lampron there, Vice President of Oncology Global Marketing at Merck, talking to me at the Reuters Events Pharma USA conference in Philadelphia. 30 launches and still counting, and every insight battle tested. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it and join us for our next edition of Reuters Events Pharma Insights, where I'll be talking to Dikla Velis-Salce, Breast Cancer Executive Director at AstraZeneca, about what it truly takes to launch an oncology therapy, understanding patients and physicians from the inside, building the right evidence beyond the Phase 3 trial, and why long-term partnerships with oncology communities are the key to real-world impact. Don't miss it.